Motion sets off the left tackle. And a miscommunication, and South Alabama takes advantage of it. One to left, Mestamaker to pass. Here's the blitz. Scrambles, steps up, now nowhere. Rolls right, spins out. He's sacked back at the 45. Tyler Thomas again on back-to-back plays brings him down.
You've moved the ball pretty well offensively, but not been able to punch it in. What do you got to do better to make that happen?
I think it's really hard in college football to put together, 5, 10, 12 play drives, and score 35 points that way. I think you have to score through some explosives, and I think we need to hunt some explosives, and some of those drives can be 10 and 12 plays, but you're going to have a hard time consistently going out there and putting, 4 or 5 or 6, 8 to 12 play drives together in college football. It's just hard. It's hard in NFL football. You have to be explosive. That's why people hunt explosive plays to shorten the drives. A 30-yard chunk in there, a 40-yard chunk in there, 2 12, 14-yard runs in there, can quicken the drive. So we need to be more explosive, on first and second down, to where we're not as many 3rd and 3s, 3rd and 4s, 4th and 2. That's good. You want that so you can manage your 3rd down. But at the same time, if you're not using some of those opportunities to be explosive, then you're going to have to meticulously move the ball down the field. And usually error or Murphy's Law comes in there somewhere in about 10, 12 plays. So we need to be more explosive. We need to be able to stay on the field. That's the other part. That's the opposite of, yes, you want 3rd and 4 because it's more easily convertible. So you got to be, if you're going to be that meticulous or that methodical, excuse me, that's the right word. If you're going to be that methodical on first and second down, then you better get 3rd down, 3rd and 3 or less. If it's 2nd 8, 3rd and 6, that's a recipe to come off the field on 3rd and 6. If it's 2nd 6, 3rd and 2, then 3rd and 2 you can function. The percentages are much higher that you can stay on the field. So really, to me, it's twofold. It's being more explosive on first and second down, and it's being able to stay on the field on 3rd down. We were in the red zone 3 times last week. I think we scored all 3 times we were in the red zone. So we don't have an issue with scoring in the red zone. We have an issue with staying on the field or being more explosive on first and second down.
After, it seemed like they looked like a totally different team in the fourth quarter against Buffalo since the quarterback got hurt. I mean, what did they do then that they weren't doing before?
They really just kind of wore on them. It was 17-0 to start the fourth. They get that first 4-minute drive, run the quarterback a little bit, but really just run the ball down the field. Just run the ball down the field. Then, Buffalo needs to make a critical first down to, chew more clock and go score. They can't convert, so they punt again. The missing factor in there is the wind. It's windy as hell up there, and so they had really good field position, but they capitalized on it 3 straight drives. So they're down 17-0, 17-7, 17-14, 21-17, and then Buffalo goes and throws at the end zone towards at the end of the game. But really, it was a combination of executing on offense, being able to run the football, getting timely stops on defense, and then having great field position through special teams with the win. And their punter did a phenomenal job. Their punter. Listen, they got a lot of great players, but their punter is people don't like to say, they think it sounds weird. He's one of their better players. When I turn on Nichols' game, when I turn on Clemson game, when I turn on, all of them, Memphis, Buffalo, every single one of those teams has a drive somewhere inside that 5-yard line. So somebody's putting it there. So he's a weapon.
Yet where you stand health-wise with losing some guys on Saturday?
We've got some guys banged up, and that's why we kind of took a lot off of them today. Today's more of a film day. Usually we'll go out on the field for about an hour, but they lifted and ran yesterday to kind of use today because this is week 6 and there's no buys, and then we get a 2-day bye, next week. So you got to take care of the kids. If the schedule's not going to take care of them, you got to take care of them. So we'll find out tomorrow, or later this afternoon, who's able to go tomorrow. But I don't anticipate, many people out. There may be some people that are healing as the week goes on, leading into the game. But I don't anticipate many people out right now. But I haven't talked to the doctor yet either, though.
The issue stopping the run. How do you fix it?
You got to tackle, and we've got to set better edges. I felt like some of the things that we were doing schematically wasn't giving us the best chances, and we've got to find some things that will help us set better edges or force the ball to people who do tackle a lot. And then there's some times where it's just poor fundamentals in tackling in terms of where your feet need to be, how you run your feet, the angles that you're taking, where your eyes are, where your body position is. It's fundamentals. And that's, on the last drive, the one that came out that set up the touchdown run, on their sideline. We have 2 or 3 guys in position to make a tackle, but our angle that we're taking, our body position, wrapping up, it's just poor fundamentals. And I'm not absolving myself from that at all. That's not what I'm saying. We have to get better at that, but it's damn hard to get better at that during the season. That needs to be addressed in the spring and the summer when we go tackle. When we get in the season, we're not going to hit our players and tackle our players. So that's stuff that has to be addressed, and you have to teach that, and that has to be taught, and you have to, same thing with ball security on the offensive side of the ball. You have to have a zero tolerance policy for that type of stuff, where it's going to show up on game days.
Troy, defensively, what stands out?
The change of scheme, that's the first thing. Then probably 1B is how they play. I was expecting to see more of what they did last year. That's what I saw in the Nichols game, and then they've changed defenses. They'll still do a little bit of their old defense, because I think it's always good to have something that somebody might be still worried about. But they want to play a 3-safety defense, and that's what they want to do, because I think they're good enough inside with their linebacker play and their defensive line and the way they chop the front, cut the front, and run the tom games and run the chase calls with their defensive ends. I think they're good enough to allow themselves to play with a safety from depth, because those 6 guys do a good job of holding up inside. Nobody has. I think there's one team that's gotten over 350 yards of total offense against them. And they've been really damn good. They've always been good on defense, but this is a different type of structure to their defense that they've typically had, and they're still really good in it. And they're smart about the way they protect their corners and the way they can help protect their safeties. They do a really good job. They've done a really good job of evolving as a defense from last year to this year.
You addressed it a little bit earlier, but when you have in portal years where everybody, your roster changes a lot, to have a game like this, a rivalry game, do you think that understanding of what that means, for the program overall is understood?
It was yesterday. I explained to them when this rivalry started, where we're at 9-4, what the history of it's been here. I'm not just going to throw up my arms and say, well, we have people in the portal who don't get it, and so it doesn't mean as much to them. No, we're going to explain to them what it means, because you're going to get a degree from here, whether you came through the portal or not. And you're going to come back here and you're going to want the football players to win the game the same way you want it. We talked about it. We talked about the belt, talked a little bit about the atmosphere, because I love playing over there. I didn't like the result 2 years ago, but I love the atmosphere. I think it's a really good atmosphere at their stadium, and a lot of crowd. And it's always fun to play in these rivalry games. Especially fun to be able to play them on the road.
You were, I think, 2-4 when you played them last year. It kind of got you guys rolling toward a pretty good second half.
Yep.
Seems like the same thing could happen this year.
Yeah, that's obviously what I'm hoping for. I think these guys have worked really hard, and they've played really hard, and they've played really well at times. And Auburn is no slouch. Tulane is no slouch. North Texas is undefeated at 5-0. They're no slouch, and we're going to call it what it is. You came damn close, but it's time for you to hit your stride. It's time for you to get paid for what you've been working for. And there's no better opportunity than playing your opponent, your rivalry, on the road. And it is going to be tough. It will not be easy at all. Explained to the guys yesterday, doesn't matter the rivalry. It could be Bama-Auburn, it could be Troy-South Alabama, it could be Texas-OU. They happen faster and lower, and they happen louder. And you got to be prepared for that. And that's the reality of those type of football games. At the same time, there's nothing more rewarding, than going in that locker room and smoking a cigar or putting on a golden hat or holding a belt or whatever it is. Doesn't matter what the bucket, whatever it is. That's the whole. That's the pageantry of college football that you don't want to lose. And so fortunately we're able to keep that rivalry. It means a lot to the southern part of Alabama, and a lot of people that have gone to school at those two schools. So it's an honor. It's a blessing. You're fortunate to be able to play in games like this. Play your tail off, because you won't ever forget them.
To review North Texas, was the tackling the biggest problem?
Yeah, just in space. 24 is good back. We got us a couple times. We tried to close some windows. I thought we did some good things in the pass game. We stayed on top of a lot of the routes. We had one third down where they got over top of us. The guy overthrew it. But in terms of going into the game against an air raid team, we wanted to do a good job staying on top of routes, and I thought we did that. And when you play a team like that, you've got to sacrifice a little bit of something. And so going in, it was, hey, let's stay on top of routes, and we'll sacrifice a little bit in the run game. The issue was with the run game started to bleed a little bit, and that's what got us. They got the one screen on the third down, the 3rd and 15 there in the second half. But that one, there was that one. The two big ones to me that stood out were that one and then the last run there. Those were the two big ones that, you wish you could get back. But that was the biggest issue, is just continuing to tackle in space.
Considering how banged up you are at safety and some at corner too, just how well have those guys played overall?
Yeah,
You got to see some guys you hadn't seen before.
Yeah, I mean, Wes went down there like fourth play. Cole Blaylock comes in. I think he ended up getting about 23, 24 snaps. Did a great job until he went out, and then Anthony Brown came in and did a really good job. You know, I think there was the one pass down there near the end zone that they threw to number 6. But other than that, I thought those guys handled it really well. You know, when Javon went down on that kickoff, I thought those guys, D. Darby stepped up and did a good job. So I think those guys they're battling and they're fighting. And I think that's the bare minimum, right, to fight in a football game. But I thought they do a great job. They complement each other really well. There was good energy on the sideline the whole time. So I think as those guys get more rest this week, and we've got a good plan for those guys in terms of practice repetitions, so that way we can sub some more guys and kind of keep guys fresh. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you want to be fresh when we trot out there Saturday night. And so I think they've done a really good job. We'll do our best to keep the game plan tight for those guys in terms of the coverages and things like that. So, credit to those guys. They stay locked in, and they do a great job in meetings, and it really paid off for us on Saturday.
Looking at what you mentioned earlier with the tackling issue, how do you approach that when you're at this point of the season? How do you go about trying to get that better?
Yeah, I think it's practice and repetitions. I think you get what you emphasize. And so, we're doing more drills to emphasize that tackling. We're doing more footwork things where it's not just stand there and hit a crash pad or whatever. It's, hey, I'm transitioning, I'm coming out of the post. It's the angle we take. It's the type of tackle. Am I trying to roll tackle? Am I trying to, put my body on this guy? Things of that nature. So it's getting the guys in game-like situations in practice. That's how you improve the fundamentals of getting those guys in the situations that they're going to be in game, talking about the angles, and showing it on film. I think that's another big thing too, is when you have that opportunity in a film room, it's stopping it, pausing it, and say, guys, look, this is why. Because on Saturday, this thing could happen or will happen or did happen, and this is why we have to practice it the way we do.
Chris Wallace was a guy who was a starter at the beginning of the year last year, but maybe didn't handle it very well, but has come back this year. And when you've really needed him, what have you seen improvement-wise from him?
Yeah, Chris has been really reliable. He has great eyes. He's done a great job. They tried to get him with a double move on Saturday. He stayed on top. We were in a cover 3, did a great job on that one. The thing for Chris is just he is probably the best communicator in the room. So that is one of the things that I think brings a ton of value with what we're doing. He's communicating to this side of the field, to that side of the field. We actually, when Weston went down, put the comms in his helmet. And so being able to talk to him and help him through some of those things helped him. There's one play, there's a third down. We actually get a stop where he's telling Dalton, I'm reminding him in the helmet, but he's telling Dalton, he's talking to Cole Blaylock. He's doing all of those things. And I think that's where his maturity, he's been here, forever now, I feel like. And so his maturity within the scheme, he's able to see those things and really talk and communicate it out with everybody, which I think has been the biggest part of his growth.
What about Troy stands out? I know they had 2 different quarterbacks, but just what do you say?
Yeah, they can run the football. They do a really good job. So that's going to be a big challenge for us this week. They got a big O-line, and they can push people around. When you watch, that's the one thing that's consistent. No matter who they've played in their first 4 games, those guys come off the ball at O-line, and they push people around. And so we're going to have to do a good job up front. We're going to have to do a good job with our backers, plugging some gaps and doing some different things that are different than maybe what we've shown so far in terms of stopping the run, because that's what we've got to do. We've got to stop the run if we want to win this football game, and we need to win this football game for us, for this community, to keep the belt here. Those are the things that we want to do this weekend, and it's going to start with us stopping the run and again, staying on top of routes like we did last week, but probably more focused of plugging those gaps and getting downhill and doing what we need to do in the run game.
Troy, what stands out about him?
Physicality. They're going to play hard. Number 7's an elite linebacker. He played really good against us last year. He runs around, makes a lot of plays. Their number 3 that plays both kind of the nickel and the middle of their 3 high safety look is a really good football player. Does a lot of good things. And then their 2 big guys inside. I think that's what stands out the most. But they're physical. They're a good defense.
Offensive execution, to make some of those drives pan out, what do you guys got to do?
I think the biggest thing we got to do is stay on schedule. I think the opening drive we went right down and scored, and the drive at the end of the half we were going right down there, but then we got ourselves a couple of penalties. We can't have offensive penalties because then that gets us behind the sticks, and then that gets you off schedule. I think the biggest thing is stay in front of the change, stay on schedule. When we take our shots, hit them, and then but most importantly, don't hurt ourselves with assignment errors or with penalties. And I think that's the biggest thing this week is our fundamentals, making sure we're doing a great job in our fundamentals and understanding the scheme, and then just staying on schedule and not ever hurting ourselves.
Been able to get the tight end involved some, early in the game, and then before the touchdowns. Well, just seemed like you got a lot of different options at that spot.
Yeah, those guys have been doing a good job. They all kind of have their own little special talents and things they do well, and it's nice to have 4 of them that can all play and do good things. And so I think we continue just to grow on that and build that package and keep using them both in the running game and the passing game.
Can you talk a little more about how the defensive scheme for Troy's changed from last year?
Yeah, they just it looks like even from game 1 to the last 3 games, they went to a little bit more of a 3 high safety look. They still will play 3 down and 4 down, but it's definitely a change from what they've done in the past. And they've done a good job. They're playing good defense, so it's just something they're believing in. I think they mix up the coverages out of it, and they'll trap both corners. They'll play regular quarters. They'll play a 3 high out of it. So they just try to give multiple looks for the quarterback to try to confuse them.